Hey there, I'm Grace.
And I'm Amelia.
And welcome to the Women Invest in Real Estate podcast, where we talk about getting started in real estate, scaling, and we give you the inside scoop about our day-to-days as full-time investors.
Interested in learning how to double your cash flow without the headache of turning your property into a hospitality-based short-term rental? Introducing Midterm Rentals. Register for our self-guided Midterm Rental Profit Academy course, where we walk you through step-by-step how to identify, analyze, furnish, market, and self-manage a midterm rental. Sign up at womeninvestinrealestate.com/MTR Profit Academy and use code PODCAST for $50 off today. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Women Invest in Real Estate podcast. Today we have a very special guest on, Jessie Dillon. She is a member of the WIIRE Community and she's been to 2 of our retreats. We are so excited to finally have her on the podcast. And today we're going to be talking about renting by the room for a midterm rental. And Jessie specifically does this in a house hack, so I think that'll be a great point of view as well. So Jessie, welcome. Why don't you give us a quick introduction about who you are?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Jessie Dillon. I'm based in central Massachusetts. I'm 30 years old. I am a wife, a stepmom. I own 2 businesses. One is a beauty business and the other is my real estate investing business. I am semi-retired with 5 doors. And just this year, I brought my portfolio from $0 to $1.5 million.
Ooh, exciting.
She's a boss.
Yes, definitely a boss. I think it's super cool too when we get to talk to people and be friends with people who have businesses outside of real estate. It's just so much fun and it gives you another perspective. Why don't you tell us how you got to this house hack, and with the house hack, why on earth did you start thinking about renting by the room?
Okay, so right now we're recording this November of 2022. I just started investing in real estate in January, and I made 2 purchases while I was still living in an apartment. So it was me, my husband, and our 14-year-old daughter. And we stayed because the rent was so good. It was so cheap. My landlord's awesome, but he owned a bunch of different properties with partners, and he's just so busy. He wasn't the type that was paying super, super close attention to each property. So I think he just didn't want to rock the boat. So I was like, we're only going to move and increase our cost of living if it's the perfect situation. And the second purchase that I made this year was a short-term rental. And it was such a whirlwind to get into it. And it was so much work up front to get everything all set up. So after that, I was like, I'm not going to look for a while. I'm going to take a month to rest, right? Everyone says they're going to do that and doesn't ever. So, I was right back on Zillow.
Yeah, definitely not Jessie.
Yeah. So I'm right back on Zillow.
I'm I can't believe that actually came out of your mouth that you were going to rest.
It's more of an ambition than something that I ever follow through with. But I was on Zillow and this really cute duplex was for sale, only a mile away from our apartment, which to me was awesome because I always wanted to stay in this area and I like being close to my family. And, I'm looking at the numbers and I'm like, why has it been listed for a month, in this, climate? It was so weird. It was half was newly flipped and it was in an amazing neighborhood. So it was a Saturday morning that I came across it. That afternoon, we went and looked at it. And the following night, we signed the offer in a smoothie shop at 10 at night. And we were not using a buyer's agent. So we just went and looked by ourselves. The listing agent was also the owner and the person who flipped it. So it was just so easy because there were only 2 cooks in the kitchen. Nobody else was involved. So that was in July. And then we moved in at the end of August. Right away, we got a long-term tenant on the other side. And again, I did my whole, I'm going to take a month to rest now while I think about doing a midterm rental in the guest room. But I was able to get somebody in for no more than 6 weeks after we moved in. And there was a little bit of back and forth with, do we really want to have somebody in our personal space? But our mortgage on this house is $38.50. And between the long-term tenant and then our midterm tenant, we pay $50. So we're getting $700 a month of principal pay down. We have this $600,000 asset that's appreciating in a high appreciation state. And we're paying $50 towards the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So it's just too good of a deal.
It's amazing. I love it so much. I think people really like to hear the numbers and you just kind of touched on it. Did you mention the purchase price?
It's $590.
Okay, $590. And how much down did you put on the property?
We used an FHA loan, so we thought that we were going to put 3.5% down. And then halfway through the closing process, I discovered that there were FHA loan limits. I had never heard of this. I mean, I haven't been investing long, but I was shocked that this never came up. So depending on what county you're in, there's an FHA loan limit for assets of each size. So like 1 unit, 2 unit, 3 unit. And we had to come up with an extra $30,000 to close. Needless to say, I did not have this since we just made these other two huge purchases like no more than 6 months prior. But luckily, someone in our network saw what we were doing, really had faith in us, and brought that to closing for us at 0% interest.
Oh, wow.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. So does your 3,800 mortgage include your payments back to that private money lender?
No, not yet. So I had used the same private money lender for the furnishings for our short-term rental. So they're not going to start until after that.
Okay, cool. I love that. Did your bank have any issue with you bringing 30,000 of someone else's money to close, or did they even ask about it? Because I know some people are like, well, if they see a large influx in your bank account, aren't they going to be suspicious about that?
Yeah, so they did ask about it, and I was completely transparent about it because I could not sleep at night if I was trying to like jump through any hoops. They did ask about it, but one of the many perks of like really using a lender that's flexible and investor friendly is that things like that aren't always a deal breaker. Whereas if you were going with a traditional bank, they're more rigid with how things have to go throughout closing and where the money's coming from and everything. But I really like the investor friendly lender that I use.
I love this that Jessie said she could not sleep at night knowing that she was doing something like under the table, because we know Jessie like very well, and that's so true. She's got like a bad girl exterior, but she's like a good girl through and through. Like will not break the rules.
Yeah, I was just telling someone else I'm like horrified of bad karma. So even like going into these partnerships right now, I'm getting into silent equity partnerships for my next deals. And everyone who I've interviewing as potential silent partners, that's something that I say. I'm like, I'm petrified of bad karma. And I know that like if I am a stand-up person for you with this first deal, that you're gonna want to keep investing with me after that. So like, why would I ever, be dishonest or do anything shady?
I totally agree. I believe in karma, and I always think about that when I'm dealing with tenants, sellers, whoever. And I've had like 2 bad tenant experiences. One was not that bad, one was pretty bad. And literally, I just think about karma with them. I'm like, I know I did what I could do to be good to you guys, and you guys were just terrible to me. And it's going to catch up with you. And that's just what makes me sleep at night, knowing that I have the good karma coming and they don't.
Yep. And for anyone interested too who's listening, I posted my 2 favorite lenders that I use on my Instagram a couple weeks ago. So if you scroll back, you can find the post with their contact info if you're looking for somebody.
And what's your Instagram handle?
Jessie Dillon with an underscore at the end.
Okay, so now you got this duplex, you bought it, you're house hacking it, you're deciding, do we bring somebody into our personal space? What made you actually make the decision and decide, okay, I'm going to furnish it, I'm going to find somebody? Walk us through that.
I really didn't feel good about increasing my cost of living. Like I didn't want to move into this house and have the money coming out of our bank account be more than it was every month when we were living at the apartment. At the apartment, our monthly cost of living with like utilities and stuff was probably $1,850. Last month in this house, it was $750.
Wow.
Plus we're, paying down debt and have this appreciating asset. So I was always comfortable with it because, we have more space in this house than we did at the apartment, like way more that we don't need. And truthfully, once you have a teenager roommate, any other roommate is just a dream. So, I was always good with it. And I had said to Pat one day, my husband, I was like, if we get a midterm renter in this guest room, our mortgage obligation would go to $50. How do you feel about that? And he was just like, if we could get that much for that room, like, absolutely, I think we should do it. And because she's like in our personal space and we have a child, I do all the same vetting as I do for long-term tenants. I do like a background and credit check, eviction report. I FaceTime them a couple times beforehand and like show them the space and just kind of get a feel for them. And, they sign a full formal lease, which in Massachusetts, any lease is really intense. But I just let people know like this is a really like the rules in this state are really rigid because they're coming from other states. And like, all leases in Massachusetts are really intense. This is just what our lawyer recommends that we use. So we're just kind of following the rules. I know it's really intense though. But yeah, so I just go through extra vetting, and our first midterm renter now, she's about halfway through her stint. She's been with us for like 6 weeks ish, and it's going really, really well. And she actually might extend.
I love that. I have so many questions that I'm like, man, I wish I was writing all of these down, because now I'm like, okay, what are my questions again? So I think first things first, where did you list the property and find your tenant? And what is she paying for a room in your market?
I listed on Airbnb and Furnished Finder. I did not list on Verbo, and she's paying $1,700 a month, and that includes everything. And it actually also includes light pet care, because I mostly work from home. She works 40 hours a week outside the house. So because we allowed pets to get that extra money, I also said like, I will help with walking and feeding and everything. And then
I think that's so smart.
Yeah, because I really wanted to like get as much for this room as possible. So I was basically just like, if this is the amount of money I want, how can I make it worth it? So I also included laundry service, because again, I'm home all day, and our utility room, you have to walk through our daughter's room to get there. And I know like some tenants might be totally cool with that, just doing it while she's at school. Other tenants might never be cool with that. So I'm like, I'll just include that as a service. And so far, the renter that we have, she has not taken me up on that at all. Like, her and our daughter get along like perfectly. They love each other. So she's totally comfortable just going through to do her laundry.
So what made you come up with the idea? I guess you said you wanted to get the maximum rent. What is the actual like verbiage of the pet care that in the laundry service that you offered?
I think and I don't know if I actually said it, she pays $1,700 a month, but I think I just wrote like light pet care, like I work from home. So if you're bringing your pup with you, like I'm more than happy to take them on walks every day and help out however else you need me to. And then with laundry, I just explained in the ad like that our utility room is through our daughter's room. So like I'm more than happy to do all of your laundry for you, wash, dry, fold, and you can just leave it outside your door when you want it done, and I'll put it back outside your door.
I love it. It's being so creative with what you have and being very upfront in the listing with like how this is going to work. I think so many people overthink it, and really it's just being honest about, this is a shared space in our home. Like, it's not like it's a house where there's 4 rooms of all traveling nurses. It's like, this is a house with a teenage daughter, etc. So I love that. It's
actually, if anyone listening is in like the countrywide travel nurse Facebook groups, I'm in like pretty much all of them, and I posted the ad in pretty much all of them. So if you search Jessie Dillon, you'll probably find the ad with all the verbiage. I even included a little info about like me, my husband, my daughter, like what the vibe is like in the house, who works from home and who doesn't. I think I even wrote in there like, we are very organized and like take pride in living in a clean and tidy house, but we're not like obsessive about it, because I think having similar standards for cleanliness and just like how you live is important.
And how has that gone? Does she have her own bathroom? How is it her using the kitchen, all of that stuff?
So there's 2 full bathrooms in the house. One of them is downstairs, and that's like sort of our daughter's bathroom. And then upstairs, which is where the other 3 bedrooms are, including mine and hers, that's a shared full bathroom. So me, my husband, and the tenant all share that bathroom. And it's been totally fine because we're all on different schedules, like work-wise. We all just really pick up after ourselves. We have similar standards for cleanliness. Yeah, that's gone really good. And sharing the kitchen, like, so I don't cook at all. I've never been good at it. I could figure it out, but it's not something I particularly want to do.
Jessie did not know how to use the coffee maker at our Denver retreat. She needed help.
I still don't. I drink coffee every day, and I still don't know how to use the coffee
I'll do
maker.
it. I'll just do it for you.
Yeah, so not really kitchen savvy, but she's an amazing cook, and she cooks for us like once a week, and it's so good. And our daughter's really into like learning how to cook too, so they'll like cook together, and it's so cute. Yeah, so it's working out great.
It seems like you really got a great tenant.
Also, I don't eat meat, and my husband Pat, like, he's a former butcher. He like loves eating meat, and our tenant cooks meat really well. So like, he finally has someone else that he can make steaks for. So we're all winning.
think it's like deciding if you're willing to make the sacrifice for $1,700 more a month, and like, is that worth it to you? Like for me, that's definitely worth it. So just deciding that personally for yourself, whether you're interested in that. I'm curious, how much would a private space for a traveler in your area go for? Because she's paying $1,700. What would she be paying if she had her own apartment?
I don't know exactly, but our long-term renter on the other side, it's a 1 bedroom. It is dated inside, like as far as cosmetics go, and that we rent for $2,100, and it includes internet and heat. But I'm seeing that, in a lot of the travel nurse Facebook groups, people who are getting assignments in Boston, which is like 45 minutes from me, they're saying that they're really having trouble finding anything at all for under $6,000 a month.
Oh my God.
That might be just people who are insisting on like a totally private space, like a 1 bedroom or a studio or something. But I'm seeing people who, they're like, I couldn't find anything remotely affordable. So I had to find housing in Portland, Maine, and I'm commuting 2 hours to work to Boston.
That is crazy. So anybody in the Boston area, listen up.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a huge opportunity for housing for travel nurses in like Boston, in Worcester, which is where ours works, which is like 45 minutes away also, just in the other direction. There's definitely like a shortage of housing. And I think if you have a private room to rent out, the so to speak, competition is not steep. Like it's creepy granny listings, like scary dark pictures. Like there's not a lot of options that are actually like cute and thoughtfully decorated and everything.
So speaking of what did you include in the room? How did you furnish it?
So I already had a furnishing list from when we did the short-term rentals. So I kind of like took that and just made tweaks to it. I literally just have a note on my phone of everything that I knew I had to buy and whether or not I bought it. So I'm happy to share that with anyone too. Like you can always just DM me and I'll send it to you. But I already had a bed frame. I got a really good mattress, box spring, 2 sets of bedding, really nice pillows. I also this was something cool that I read online to do. There's certain curtain rods that like wrap around into the wall so that light can't come through the side of the curtains. So I make sure to get those blackout curtains, a bureau, smart TV. There's a closet. I got, a nightstand, a lamp.
What the hell is a bureau? Do you mean a dresser?
Oh my God. Is this another like thing where people in the middle of the country like use different words for everything?
I also don't know what a bureau
Do you
is.
call a couch a Davenport? If you do, I don't know that we can be friends. Okay.
If you do, we're ending this podcast. Wait, what is a bureau?
It's a dresser, yeah.
Right.
I think we call like the tall skinny ones a dresser and the long wide ones a bureau, but people use the words interchangeably here.
I'll give it to you. There is kind of a difference.
Yeah. And then standard accent chair. I got like a white noise machine. In total, it cost, and I didn't try and get anything off marketplace because the speed and convenience was more important to me. And I wanted everything to be new and nice because my thought process was, if this doesn't work out, if I hate having somebody in this room, then I want to just have a really cute furnished guest room. So it cost me $1,700 to furnish the room. It just so happened that was also the number we were going to rent it for. So I made my money back on that after 1 month.
That's amazing. So how does the kitchen space work then? Like, does she have an area in the fridge where her food goes, or how do you do that?
Yeah, so the whole top right corner of the fridge is pretty much hers. And then there's a bottom right drawer and there's cabinetry above the stove that's hers. But we also just share a lot of stuff. We have a closet of all drinks, like cases of water and seltzers and stuff. And we're help yourself to whatever. We'll share disposables like paper plates and plastic silverware and stuff. So I went into it having no plans to be oh, we need to keep everything super separated. We're sharing this space and I want her to feel welcome. And if somebody takes a plastic fork, I'm not going to get all bent out of shape about it. But of course, we're very diligent about making sure we don't use any of her groceries or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's cute. I think, again, going back to is this the lifestyle that you're willing to live? And also, if you're super uptight, if you're not okay with people being in your space, if you're a neat freak that cannot have any dirt anywhere, maybe it's not for you. Because if you're going to be a nightmare landlord,
A roommate.
Roommate. Like if you're in a nightmare roommate, like don't do this.
Just skip this episode, please.
Yeah, you have to be willing to like let things go and just understand that like not everyone's going to live exactly the same as you do, and you just have to be okay with that. Which again, if any of you have teenagers, you should already be used to that, so this is perfect for you. But we also did bake a lot of things into the lease that weren't standard for a lease. We had said, you know, any guests that you have should really leave by 10. Like we'll just call 10 our kind of quiet hours, so like guests should be gone by then. We would prefer that you don't have anyone like sleep over, just because again, like it's kind of weird with, you know, a teenage girl. Like I don't want random guys here, you know what I mean? So I just kind of brainstormed like what are all the things that would possibly make me or my family like uncomfortable or make me second guess this, and I just got ahead of all of them in the lease.
That's really smart. And I think the best part is with midterm rental, you're probably only signing for 12 weeks. So worst case scenario is you have to put up with somebody you don't like or the situation you don't like for 3 months. That's a far cry from a year, you know? So I love that there's so many different like things built in to make it go smoother. And then you can decide if you want to extend. Like you said, if you don't like the whole situation, now you just have a nice guest bedroom that you can have friends and family at.
And if you try it for 3 months and you don't like it, well, you just made like
$1,700.
Yeah. You just made like a bunch of money. So, I mean, you tried it, you made some money, you learned the lesson, and now you know that doesn't work for you. So you can do something else.
Another question that we get, and I wonder if this is different for a room versus a whole place, is what do you do about toilet paper, paper towels? I would assume that you just provide those for the whole duration of the lease.
Yeah, I mean, anything that we're going to buy anyway for ourselves like that, we just buy it. But she'll often, like if she's, you know, going grocery shopping, like if she notices that we're running low on paper towels, she'll just grab them. But I do also think it's part of just like, you know, this is a hospitality business if you're in short-term or midterm rentals, I think. And it's just kind of part of that to me to always have paper towels, always have toilet paper, and make sure not to run out of stuff. And cleaning supplies too. Like I don't expect her to get any of her own stuff like that. But you could also just set expectations for that when you're writing up your lease or writing up your ad.
I love that we're talking about this specific situation because I think a lot of people also get stuck on, oh, if they don't have their own private entrance and own bathroom, it can't work. And here you are sharing kitchen, not a private entrance, sharing a bathroom, and it's definitely working and it can work. So what are some other things that you would say are good sign that you should try midterm rental or just long-term rental by the room? To me, I'm thinking if you're in a big city, like you said, where $6,000 is what people are asking for a private area, you could really slide into the market as a cheaper alternative by the room and have a lot of success there. Are there any other indicators you think that would be good for somebody interested in this?
I personally probably would not do a long-term person in that unit because like you said, if it's not a perfect match personality wise, you only have to deal with it for 3 months. And I don't want to say deal with it. I feel like that kind of comes off bad because like you should still be very grateful for that person who's like paying to come and use your space. But, you know, I think midterm is the perfect way to do it. Like it's somebody who, you know, it's not a really long commitment, but they're going to be there for a while. So they're going to take care of the space and want to have a good dynamic and mutual respect. But I think if you have an extra room in your house that's not being used and you could benefit from that extra money every month, if you feel like you're pretty good with hospitality or like customer service, those I think are all good indicators that you should try it out.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you're someone who's like really particular about everything being a certain way in your house, and that's not something that you're willing to like consciously just let go of for the time being, then maybe it's not for you.
So I know that you've analyzed a couple of houses where you might implement the midterm rent by the room strategy. Are those closer to the Boston area to capitalize on that whole dynamic?
The ones that I had analyzed are closer to Worcester or in Worcester, which is like the other big city near me. So as an example, one that I had analyzed recently, it's a 2-family. Each unit has 3 bedrooms. One of them could potentially have a 4th bedroom. And there's also zoning board of approval for a third unit in the walk-up attic, which would be like a 1-bed, 1-bath. So right now, as it stands, if my partner and I were to go ahead and purchase that, we could each walk away with like $900 a month, which is not nothing. There's already new leases signed too for this coming June that would bring it up to like $1,200 a month. However, if we were to do the midterm rental by the room strategy there, of course it would involve money upfront to furnish, make everything look really, really nice. Like if there's any cosmetics that aren't in tip-top shape, and it would include more day-to-day work for me, but we would each walk away with more like $3,000 a month.
That's incredible.
So it would, and that's even factoring in like that we would be paying now for all utilities, supplies, and stuff like that. The property would start grossing like $10,000 a month.
One quick question. How far is your tenant in your house driving to her hospital?
I'm like 40, 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'll always have people say, that wouldn't work in my town because I live in a really small town. My town's really small. There's only like 6,000 people here. The town that I had lived in prior was more like 30,000 people. So I do consider this a really small town. But especially like depending on where you're from in the country, I feel like there's some areas where people are used to driving far. And then there's other areas where people are used to not driving at all. So if your tenant lives somewhere where like, most people commute 45 minutes to work, they're not going to think anything of that, especially if they get the cheapest option that's still really nice.
I'm thinking about this really small town. I know it's probably 5,000 people, not even, it's probably like 3,000 people. And I have tenants who drive 45 minutes to that town for a hospital. And I'm thinking, okay, I need to get a little house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 2-2, and do rent by the room. Maybe there's only 15 travel nurses, but there's only 15 rentals in the whole town. So I know I would get that demand because they're coming to my midterm rentals 45 minutes away. So that's another thing, is if you can see where the demand is going and where there's no supply, back into it.
And people always say, like, just list it and see if anyone's interested. Like, to list on Furnish Finder, you would have to pay $99. But like, if that's the market research that you need to do to feel confident before you go spend like $1,700 furnishing your room, just do it. List it on there and say it's coming soon and just see what interest you have.
Yeah, we give that piece of advice a lot. Test it out, see how it goes. Okay, last couple questions. If you were to buy a house that's, let's say, a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom and rent it by the room, what are some differences versus like renting it out as a whole? And I think we should talk about this because we get this question so much, and it's like there's really only a couple things that are different versus renting it out as a whole unit. So, Jessie, what from the research you've done, what would you say are the main differences?
If you're used to analyzing stuff for long-term rentals, like, of course, you also now need to factor in money for like supplies, and also that you're going to be paying all the utilities, that you're going to be upfront furnishing the place. But basically at that point, you're running like a high-end boarding house. So you kind of have to put in place, like, here are the guidelines for living here so that everyone's happy. So, no overnight guests should leave by 10, like quiet hours after this time. Also consider, like, are you going to rent to all traveling medical professionals who work overnights, or are you going to rent to all people who work days? Because if there's one person who works overnights and one person who works days, that whole like no overnight guests out by 10 thing wouldn't really make sense. So I think kind of like setting ground rules for everyone who's going to be living there so that they don't have to work it out amongst themselves is probably like a good way to avoid a lot of headaches.
I know somebody who does midterm rental by the room, and one thing they do to just mitigate all issues is they have a cleaner come once a week. And yes, it costs them more, but it gets rid, and that cleaner restocks everything, and they provide even like the shampoo and some of those other things. So there's no issues over, you're using my shampoo, you never buy the toilet paper, you don't pick up the kitchen. They just go ahead and pay for those things up front to mitigate those issues. And then of course the rent might go up a little bit to cover that.
I love that idea. Like, I mean, say you're paying $125 for that weekly cleaning and you have 4 people in there. That's not that much. That's like what, $30 per person per week. that you would be coming out of pocket with, but you're avoiding headaches and you're making sure that your property is taken care of.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They're your eyes and ears. And we charge a cleaning fee up front to our traveling nurses, both Grace and I do. So like if you charge each tenant $100 and there's 4 rooms and it's $100 a week to clean, it doesn't really eat into your cash flow at all because they're covering it. I think it's super important to have a cleaner come in if you are renting by the room and there's shared spaces, to just right up off the bat, get that out of the way.
Yeah,
So.
we do, like in our house, we do a deep clean once a month, and she will also do our midterm renters room. So we don't do it like quite as often, but it does make me feel good that someone's going in there and deep cleaning.
Yeah. I think one other piece of advice is like if you're going to rent by the room, it's like a boarding house, like Jessie said. So in your kitchen, like your cabinets, you'll just have a whole cabinet and label it. This is room 1. This is room 2. And in the fridge, you'll just have it quadrant out. So there's 4 quadrants and that's your space. Some people even I've seen have put like, they'll put like a divider or like tape or something that's like, okay, this is this area. Just get in front of any issues that might come up.
Yeah, that's smart.
One last thing I would say about renting by the room is you do have to know that it's not just one listing anymore. If there's 4 bedrooms, you're really managing 4 listings. So hopefully you're making a lot more money, but there is going to be a bigger management piece to that.
Yeah. And for somebody who has like, you know, an assistant or somebody who's helping them like do in-house property management, that might not be that big of a deal. And even though it sounds like so much work, you could get the same cash flow from doing this as you could for buying like a 4-plex and doing all long-term rentals. So it's kind of a trade-off, like what's more important to you.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Jessie, for coming on and chatting with us. Again, if you want to find her on Instagram, it's Jessie Dillon _. She's very active on there and very helpful. So yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you loved today's episode, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And don't forget to check us out and join our community at womeninvestinrealestate.com and follow us on Instagram at WIIRE with 2 eyes.community.